Well, here we are. This is the 2021 Textile Art Group in Yellow Springs, Ohio group show. So when you first walk into the Wynn's restaurant, the first thing you see on your left is a piece by Bette Kelly called Back to the Future. And it's all about turtles. I'll get up close here so you can see all my little turtles heading back to the water to have a good life. If I come back here, if I stand back here, you can see that everything continues down the way. The inspiration for this came from standing on a beach in one of the state parks on the island of Molokai, and you could actually look down a beach that was this long. So all of these little turtles are doing the same thing. They're going back to the future. For the past two exhibits, that would be 2 years ago and then this year, I have decided to challenge the people in our group, and so I find some kind of funky picture and then have people be inspired by it. This time, this is a picture of my friend Judy's compost pile, and I was really intrigued with it because of the little, they're not critters, I guess, growing things that look like parasols, some kind of fungus. So, we had Carol's silk scarf, woven silk scarf, and she has used pieces of shibori as the flowers or the fungi. Our newest member, Paula Womack, is a felting artist, and so she has felted a background with all different kinds of things. There's stitching, and there are roses or flowers or some kind of other art, life form sewn in there. Our member Gail did this. This is more of a portrait, and if I get in close you can see that there are the little fungi flower parasol looking things, and she's also included some of the other things. My approach was to make a purse because in my stash I found these little, they kind of looked like pleated hat things that I disassembled, and I happened to have 4 of them. And so I made a purse and put on some beads and some French knots because I always have to have some kind of knots on my work. Coming around the corner here, we have a Hawaiian quilt. This is called Honu, which is the Hawaiian name for sea turtles. And this is a Hawaiian quilt, but means it's a whole cloth quilt. Instead of having a lot of little pieces sewn together, you or me folds fabric kind of like an origami. So you fold it in half and then fourths and then on the diagonal, and you cut out your picture or your motif, and when you undo it, they're all together, kind of like the paper doll thing. So I did that, and here I did the same thing with the waves on the background, and then it's echo quilted. I also, if I get close, you can see that I used some thread to define where the carapace marks were, and I put some orange thread on the outside of each body to help provide contrast. What was really exciting and very nervous was I bought all of this fabric online in January of 2020. The Textile Art Group has been going for 10 or 12 years, something like that. One of our original members, Sue Rudolph, recently died last January, and so we're doing kind of a memorial retrospective of her work. This is a piece that she made all about fracking, which was going on in our area at the time. So there's a beautiful quilt at the top with all of the trees. And then as we come down, there's still some nice vegetation, and then all of a sudden, here's all the dead stuff, which is what you get after fracking. And then below the fracking, there's still some nice stuff. Next door to it is a wonderful quilt called English Garden. It's like a very formal garden. This is one of my favorite pieces of hers. It's all quilted and stitched on. Next we have a saguaro cactus, and all of the things that are related to it and that live on it. So there's the flowers, lots and lots of different kinds of birds who use it to nest and to feed on, and a Native American at the bottom because they also use various parts of the plant for whatever reason, whatever thing they need it for. The last piece is called Windy, and you can see all of the movement that she's created with varying the way the fabric is sewn together. She died, she left a number of things unfinished, and so our member Pam decided she was going to finish them. So this is called Forget-Me-Nots because there are the blue flowers. The next one is called After Image. And the last one is called Relics. I have to look close to see. Relics. And if I get up close here, you can see there are beads, there's some sequin waist, some buttons, and various kind of things left over from somewhere else. It's called Kandinsky in the Springs. But this is Yellow Springs after all, and there is on the back of her quilt is a photo of a painting that Kandinsky made. He's a European painter from way back, and she then interpreted this in a quilt with pieced up fabric and lots of stitching, and it's just quite wonderful. This was a quilt room. I put one of my pieces in there. This is called Hilo Hello, and the name comes because it features a lehua flower. I'm getting right close. I made this when I took an online class with an Australian woman named Sharon Boggin to learn how to do what she calls encrusted and designed crazy quilting. This is a crazy quilt because the pieces are not sewn together in a geometric way. There's 3 different pieces, and my challenge was to make this one and this one integrate well with the original one up here. Moving into the big room, over the fireplace, we have my horses. These are Scythian horses. And this was a serious adaptation I did from an article in Archaeology magazine. Yes, I did have permission. The adaptation came from the fact that when you're a painter, you don't have to put in all of the details. So the eyes and the nose were kind of just a dab of paint, and the 4 horses on the right only had 15 legs. So I had to put all of that in there and then figure out how to make all of the regalia with which they were buried. Underneath there we have Carmen Bonanda. She's my goofy doll that I've thought about making for probably 40 years. There was a South American movie star in the 40s named Carmen Miranda, who was known for wearing fruit on her head, etc., as well as being a dancer. So mine is Carmen Bonanda, and yes, she is a banana, and she's all dressed up. Our newest member is Paula Womack, and she is a felt artist. And I've done a little bit of felting, and I can tell you this is nothing like anything I've seen anybody else do. Paula is primarily a painter, as she explained, and so when she is carding her fibers is when she mixes all the colors together. So if I get up here close, you can see that all of these colors have been carded together. And this is called Relics, and she has put a lot of different relics on it. It's quite large. And it's absolutely beautiful. It reminds me of a coat from some culture somewhere. On the wall next to it, we have Ohio, the heart of it all. This is called a spot sampler. That's the explanation for my granddaughter. Because instead of most samplers are in lines. And this one is just various spots. And the things that are on here, 99.9% of them are from our yard. And it's also the current motto of the state of Ohio, the heart of it all. And down here at the bottom is a little state shape with a heart where Yellow Springs is. Next to it we have one of Carol's, I'm going to get over here so you can see better, one of Carol's Inkle Loom bands, woven bands. Get up close so you can see the really wonderful pattern. Next to her, this is the big wall. I'm going to back up so we can get an overview, and then I'll come in for close-ups. This is 4 of Pam's quilts in a row. There's this one, and this one, my favorite, and this one, and the last one. And it's balanced on the end by one of Carol's scarves, and this is called Sea Slug because these are the colors in the picture of a sea slug that she saw. It's pretty fun. Next we have Pam's quilt. It's called Sunrise Celebration because it's all about when the sky in the morning goes from that dark, dark blue, purple up to the yellow. Next we have the moon, the time-lapse moon photography when it goes through all the different phases. As I said, this is my favorite one. This is called Migrations. So if you're a person from the quilting world, you'll recognize these are possibly flying geese. If you turn them upside down, they look like butterflies. Pam and I have an ongoing argument about the color here. I think it's red and green. She thinks it's red and black, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. The last one is called Cosmic Connectivity, and it's all the different kind of shapes that you would see if you were an astronomer out in space. And they're all connected with lines of stitching. Our members, Macy Reynolds, is a master gardener and extremely interested in all things that are growing or all of the little wingy things. So this is a toad trillium, and she always stitches with silk thread, and it's always on cocktail napkins because that way the edges are already finished. Macy's piece, Yellow Springs Women's Park. If you come down the bike path while you're visiting Yellow Springs, this is the women's park that runs along part of the bike path, and she is instrumental in helping to keep it clear of weeds and deciding what to replace plants with should that need to happen. This is Macy's piece called Summer Morning, and if I get close, you can see that there's the part of a chair and a mug with something to drink, and your person can look out and enjoy the flowers and the trees in the distance. Macy's last piece is a sunflower. I'm going to get in here really close. Her stitching is so tiny and so good. It's just amazing. And sunflowers grow really well here. We had one in our yard this year that was probably, I don't know, 7 feet tall. So this is a 2-part series from me from a couple years ago. This is called Audition at Suncrest Gardens, which is the name of the tree nursery that Cousin Greg has in Pennsylvania. And you'll notice that as you go down, each tree is highlighted with a spotlight. And this references my background in the theater. If there's going to be an audition, everybody has to come and stand in the spotlight and audition for their part in the performance. And so I have done that with the trees. They all have their names stitched in there, their Latin name as well as their common name. And here's performance at Suncrest Gardens. Oh look, everybody made it into the show. And even more, this is an inside theatrical joke. The little yellow stuff at the bottom, that didn't audition. And that's because it was the nephew of the director's wife's sister who insisted that they have a part in the show. This is another piece by Gail. Gail was interested in practicing stitches, and so she watercolored pictures or painted pictures in the background, circles, and then did all different color stitches. So she was working on color schemes as well as stitch patterns, and it's called Stitch Sampler because that's what it is. Oh, we're back to me. This is what I did when the pandemic first started. These are adaptations from a woman named Effie Mitrofanis, and it was an exercise for me to learn how to do pulled thread things. I also got to use up a lot of beads and a lot of thread. And I've named them after various gems. So there's pearls at the top, and this is peridot, olivine, I'll get close so you can see, olivine, and amethyst. Over on this side we have turquoise, and I called the bottom one citrine because there's a lot of yellow.